Chris, how we doing, man? What you got cooking these days?
Well, I'm going to try to follow that Masters. I don't know if I can do it. I'm an avid golf guy, too. It's not in my Twitter bio, but I was really rooting for Rory. And to see him, I mean, I think you laid it out perfectly. Missed the putt on 18, stripe the driver, hit it tight, and then make that putt. And to see his reaction, I think that was the best Masters win reaction that we've seen maybe since Tiger when he won in 2019.
He gets down at all fours. He's weeping right there in front of the crowd. When we go to a playoff, did you think Rory would have what it takes to win it?
I did, because it felt like down the stretch he was hitting all of his drives beyond his wedges really well, and he had just hit a really good drive on 18, a good second shot in the playoff hole. So it kind of felt like as long as he hit a drive in the fairway and didn't hit it in the bunker, I thought he was going to get the job done.
Your NFL draft coverage is always outstanding, and I think everybody is wondering what's real on Shedeur Sanders. Is he the second best quarterback in this draft and destined to go high in the draft? And it's all smokescreen that he's going to go 2 to the Browns or 3 to the Giants? Or are all of these reports true and that NFL executives are really unimpressed by Shedeur and that he's actually might not even be the second best quarterback in the draft? Where do you stand on what is real with Shedeur?
Well, DA, I'll say this, that if Shedeur Sanders is the second overall pick, like you're suggesting is a possibility, or he goes well within the top 5, it will be the best kept secret that I've seen during the pre-draft process in a long time, because from the combine where everyone gets together, there's scouts, there's media members out in Indianapolis at night, really gossiping, spreading rumors. Maybe some are true, some aren't. All the way up until now, there have not been a lot of people that I've spoken to that feel like this is a top flight quarterback prospect who is destined to be a top 5 pick. So I think Jackson Dart is hot on his tail, and it wouldn't be surprising if Shedeur Sanders drops. I think the ultimate turning point for him and really the entire first round is number 9 overall with the New Orleans Saints. We heard the news this week about Derek Carr that his 2025 season might be in jeopardy because of injury. If the Saints pass on Shedeur Sanders at 9, and you could maybe even throw in the Jets at 7, we could see him fall maybe all the way to the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 21 overall.
Are you buying some people are suggesting that Jackson Dart could be the second quarterback selected in this draft ahead of Shedeur?
I think that's a distinct possibility. I don't think it's a slam dunk, but it'll be interesting to see what the betting markets show over the next 10 days until we get to the draft in Green Bay on the 24th. But he is a former big-time recruit, 3-year starter with a former NFL coach in Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, and he doesn't come with any of the baggage. He doesn't have Deion Sanders as a father, which I think helped get Shedeur Sanders on the map in terms of going from Jackson State to Colorado and then becoming a top-tier quarterback prospect in this class. But Jackson Dart is plenty talented too, and everything that I had heard from his interviews at the Combine, they went a lot better, and there wasn't as much awkwardness or contentiousness as Shedeur Sanders interviews in Indy.
So that's a real thing that some executives were put off that it could get contentious because of Shedeur's bravado or confidence or what have you.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's totally fair to him. I mean, Baker Mayfield is one of those scrappy quarterbacks who really rose in the 2018 draft to be the number 1 overall pick, and we really applaud Baker Mayfield in this resurgence that he's had in Tampa Bay for being someone that's brimming with confidence and has that bravado, but it's just rubbed a few people in the NFL the wrong way. But we know in the first round, all it takes is one team to have the owner sign off, the coach sign off, and say, we're going to welcome what is probably going to be a lot of attention. You could maybe even call it a media circus. It's not that Shedeur Sanders is a bad prospect, but he's not so good like a Trevor Lawrence or a Caleb Williams or a Joe Burrow, where owners and GMs would just really push any of the off-field stuff to the side. So more so with other top-tier prospects, the maturity, the bravado is more of an issue than it is normally.
So the Steelers are caught in no man's land because of Aaron Rodgers, and they brought in Shedeur for a workout. Is it plausible that Shedeur is available to the Steelers at 21, they draft Shedeur, and they don't have to do business with Aaron Rodgers?
100%. And I think Mike Tomlin's history dealing with a variety of personalities, from Le'Veon Bell to Antonio Brown. George Pickens has certainly had his moments there. They trade for DK Metcalf. They need a quarterback. It's a distinct possibility. Again, if Shedeur Sanders is not picked at 9, I think Mike Tomlin and that very stable Pittsburgh Steelers organization might actually be the best landing spot for Shedeur Sanders. He wouldn't have to come in and throw 50 touchdowns as a rookie for this team to be respectable. We know that Mike Tomlin's never had a losing record in Pittsburgh. So I feel like that is one of the better landing spots, Pittsburgh or in Los Angeles with the Rams and Sean McVay, to be the heir apparent to Matthew Stafford with the Rams.
In terms of where you think the draft gets real interesting, that there's kind of a dividing line and we don't know what's going to happen after this pick, where would you put that line?
Pretty close to where we were mentioning before with the Saints at 9, but I'll start a few picks before that. 6, 7, and 8. That 6 with the Las Vegas Raiders, there's a whole new regime there. Tom Brady, part owner, is said to be really calling the shots. You have Chip Kelly as the offensive coordinator, Pete Carroll as the head coach. Do they go running back? Do they maybe pick someone to be the heir apparent to Geno Smith? And then no one really knows what the Jets are going to do. Another team that picks at 7, new head coach with Aaron Glenn, new GM. We don't know. They could be the Shedeur Sanders team, or maybe they're the Jackson Dart team. So I think 6, 7, 8, and then 9 with the Saints, that is really the turning point of this draft, whether it's Shedeur Sanders or just other big-time prospects. We're not really sure what any of those teams will do because they have new pieces in place in the front office and a coaching staff.
Your latest mock draft is fascinating at cbssports.com. I highly encourage everybody to check out Chris's work because this guy's been on it for years. He's joined me throughout the years on the show. You got, predictably, Cam Ward, 1 of the Titans, and Travis Hunter, 2 to the Browns. Then at 3, almost everybody in New York figures, well, it's not going to be Shedeur. If Abdul Carter's available, it's going to be Abdul Carter. But you don't have the Giants taking Abdul Carter, Penn State edge rusher, at number 3. Why not?
Because Armand Membu from Missouri would be surprising, but he had a huge combine workout. And to me, as a draft analyst, just knowing the history of the draft and trying to keep some of the recent memory in mind when trying to make these mock drafts, the first round is all about traits. And he tested extremely well. The Giants' offensive line, doesn't matter who the quarterback is. If it's Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston, or they do draft someone, it's been a huge problem during the Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen era. So I think between Membu and Abdul Carter, that's probably the 2 players that the Giants are thinking about. But I think more so than anything else, Brian Daboll being an offensive-minded head coach, and the fact that the defense actually played well down the stretch last season, it's really in the trenches along the offensive line where the Giants need the most help.
If the Giants are not taking a quarterback in the first round up high, do they trade back into the first round for somebody, or do they wait to try to get a quarterback in the second or third round?
I think they will try to move back up. And we have to remember that so many trades get close in round 1, late on Thursday night, 10, 11 o'clock, when we're in picks, from the 20s to the early 30s, that ultimately never materialize. I would be really surprised if Joe Schoen, the GM of the Giants, in what would be his 4th draft in New York, just never picks a quarterback in the first round. He would probably kick himself if he doesn't ultimately do that. So whether that's Jackson Dart, could that be Jalen Milroe from Alabama, who was kind of surprisingly invited to Green Bay, which gives you a little bit of an indication that maybe the NFL likes Jalen Milroe more than the media does. I think they will be aggressive calling those teams like the Minnesota Vikings. There's a lot of teams that don't have a lot of picks, those contenders in the 20s that would be apt to trade out. I think they will be aggressive, but they do have one of the first picks in round 2. If they can't get a deal done, they may just have to pick that quarterback in the second round.
So you got the Patriots at 4 taking Abdul Carter, and they would love if that pass rusher dropped to them at number 4. And then at 5, a lot of your peers have Mason Graham, defensive lineman, Michigan, going to the Jaguars at 5. You do not. This is interesting. Jags fans, Chris has your team taken Boise State's Ashton Jeanty at number 5. And if you think about it, Trevor Lawrence, you're trying to get him to the next level. You've got good talent on the outside. You've got a coaching staff that you're hoping is going to unlock, that passing game of that offense now with an offensive-minded guy as your head coach. and now you add a game breaker in Ashton Jeanty. It's a fascinating conversation. Do you think that the Jaguars are going to snatch Jeanty in the top 5?
At this point, I do. And I think we also have to remember that the first round, especially at the top, always gives us a few surprises. And for as much as, yes, Mason Graham would be the chalk pick, the defensive tackle from Michigan, everything that you just laid out, DA, Liam Cohen, their head coach, is an offensive-minded guy. James Gladstone, their young GM, 34 years old, the youngest GM in the NFL, comes over from the LA Rams. And you could think, hey, maybe a younger GM would understand the modern-day value of the running back and would wait at that position. But we've also seen, what Jahmyr Gibbs has done in Detroit as a former first-round pick. He's really helped that roster being so explosive. And then obviously Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry. There's been a little bit of a change of tune in terms of the value of a rookie deal running back might be a little bit better than we thought just a few years ago. That was one of the bigger talks outside of Shedeur Sanders at this year's Combine.
So speaking of Shedeur, then you have the Jets snapping him up at number 7. Now, this is fascinating because Shedeur and New York, whoa, that feels combustible. But also you have a head coach in Aaron Glenn who kind of dismissed the Aaron Rodgers circus, doesn't want it, told him to take a hike. Shedeur comes with some circus, some attention for sure. We know Woody would like that attention. Not sure if his coaching staff would. So what makes you feel like Shedeur to the Jets could be a marriage?
So it feels like everything that you just laid out is completely true with what Aaron Glenn said at the owners' meetings down there in South Florida. I feel like that could be a little bit of a smokescreen, that they don't want anyone to really know, and they want people to be off the scent that they love Shedeur Sanders. That's not to say that I know it's going to ultimately happen, but that's my prediction right now. I'm drawing a comparison from Shedeur Sanders to Jared Goff. And although he was the defensive coordinator in Detroit with the Lions, the fact that Aaron Glenn was coaching against Jared Goff every single day in practice, a pocket passer that knows where to go with the football, not super mobile, but he's accurate, and really resurrected his career in Detroit. I could see Aaron Glenn, new coaching staff, new GM saying, look, we're going to bring him here. He's the right personality to be in New York. He would probably love to be with the Jets and be in this media market. He can handle it. He's been in the spotlight, even from Jackson State all the way to Colorado, a big spotlight his entire career leading up to this point, that it wouldn't necessarily be where Shedeur Sanders has to start right away because they have Justin Fields on the roster. And the Jared Goff comparisons, I could see them ultimately drawing those and having that be the ultimate reason why they picked Shedeur Sanders at 7.
Oh, man, what an interesting first round you have in your mock draft. Before I let you go, Chris, give me the player that somebody's going to reach for that you just know this is a mistake. Somebody's going to go up and get this guy, and it's going to be too early, too high to pull him in. Who do you think that guy might be?
Remember the name Shedeur Stewart from Texas A&M, and you probably talked about him after the Combine. Had a crazy workout, almost like a Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney-esque workout in Indianapolis. But when you watch him on film at Texas A&M in the SEC, you wonder if he's that big, that long, and that explosive and that good of an athlete, why was he not more productive? Was not a big sack producer. The pressures were not there. He doesn't really use his hands and pass rush moves very well. So he is that ultimate workout warrior. And like I said earlier, the first round is really all about traits. But if he's picked somewhere inside the top 20, I've even heard inside the top 15, maybe the Atlanta Falcons in the middle of the first round, a team desperate for an edge rusher, I don't think he's going to ultimately pan out in the NFL. And we're going to look back and say, yes, draft for traits in round 1, but they have to be good football players too. And Shedeur Stewart just isn't quite there yet to ultimately live up to those first round expectations.
All right, everybody that's all into the draft, we have so many listeners that just love this, so many viewers that love the draft, have been geeking out over it for so long. Chris is one of the best out there. Go to cbssports.com. Check out Chris's latest mock draft. It's really, really interesting. Follow him on Twitter at Chris Trapasso, and then also on Instagram at Chris Trapasso NFL. He's got great anecdotes, great insight. What I really love what you did was the plan Bs and plan Cs. So if you're thinking, okay, if my team gets so-and-so, great, but if they don't, who can they get? Chris has laid it out beautifully for you. I think it's great, great stuff over at cbssports.com. Check it out right now. If you can't get Cam Ward, Who's the plan B? Who's the plan C? Maybe a Will Howard, maybe a Connor Cook. It's great stuff. CBSSports.com right now. Chris, man, it's always great to catch up. Thanks so much, man. Thanks for joining us on Masters Sunday, and we'll talk soon, buddy.
DA, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.
You got it. Chris Trapasso joining us this evening here on the show. Awesome stuff from Chris. Always one of the best in the NFL draft game. You got to love it.